Congressman from New York. He's the ranking member on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you for being here. I want to talk to you about North Korea in a minute, but I want to ask you about Mike Flynn first. You say that he should be fired if President Trump decides not to do that. What can you and other members of Congress do?
Well, I think we can point out what happened between General Flynn and the Russians. You know, Russia has clouded this whole election. They have hacked the Democratic National Committee. They clearly wanted Donald Trump to win the presidency. They've been involved with trying to influence the election. And to me, it doesn't matter so much as to who they favored. It's that they had the audacity to try to destroy our American democracy. This is very, very serious. If General Flynn had a meeting with the Russians on the very day or soon after President Obama levied sanctions on the Russians, to talk to them about it or to tell them don't worry about it, that makes me very, very frightened. I think it compromises General Flynn.
But we still have dialogue with the Russians. We enjoy actually very strong diplomatic relations. For the last few years, you've seen Sergei Lavrov, the foreign secretary, with John Kerry. What bothers you about this?
Well, no one is saying that we shouldn't have diplomatic relations with the Russians, but we shouldn't be under any illusion that the Russians are our friends, that Vladimir Putin is a friend. And too often we get the feeling that they tried to interfere in the U.S. election. I mean, this is our democracy at stake. It doesn't matter to me, who they interfered for. I would be just as angry if they interfered in behalf of Hillary Clinton.
But if Mike Flynn did talk to them on behalf of the Trump administration, what's the part that bothers you? Because the Trump administration clearly wants to have conversations with Russia.
But we don't know that he talked to them with the backing of the president. The president has been very, very quiet about this. So if General Flynn, on his own, decides to talk to the Russians to sort of say, well, don't worry, everything will be all right. Once we're in, we'll get rid of these sanctions. I'd be very, very worried. He'd be very, very compromised, and he should either be fired or resign. He should do it just because it's best for the country. I don't see how he can effectively function as the national security advisor after all this has been revealed.
Let me ask you, I want to ask you about the immigration ban. This was, I'm going to play you a clip from CBS this weekend. Stephen Miller, who was doing the circuit this weekend, was asked about immigration and asked what the administration has learned from the legal battles. Let's you and I listen to this together.
The end result of this, though, is that our opponents, the media, and the whole world will soon see, as we begin to take further actions, that the powers of the president to protect our country are very substantial and will not be questioned.
All right, I want to hold that last thought where he said the powers of the president are substantial and will not be questioned. I want to just quickly take some pictures of the president and Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, taking a walk along the colonnade at the White House on the way to a luncheon that they're having. Earlier, we saw some video of the two of them sitting together at a meeting with a number of women entrepreneurs. What struck me as interesting was the familiarity between them, the president referring to the Prime Minister as Justin, and the Prime Minister referring to the President as Donald. They talked about a photograph that was given by the Canadian Prime Minister to President Trump of Donald Trump and then Prime Minister Trudeau, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, back at the Waldorf Astoria years ago, sort of a reminder from Justin Trudeau to Donald Trump that our families go back a long way. We'll follow up on that a little while when there's more of a discussion between the two of those leaders, and we'll bring that to you. But I want to go back to Congressman Engel. The last sentence of what Stephen Miller said was, the powers of the president to protect our country are very substantial and will not be questioned. I got a bit of a chill listening to that.
Well, I got a chill too. It's a very arrogant statement. We don't have kings in this country. We have a separation of powers. We have checks and balances on all levels of government. President obviously is a very important person. He was elected president, but the Congress is important too, and the judiciary is important too. And to me, that sentence shows a lack of understanding of how our government works.
In fact, the concept of checks and balances on all three of those remarkably important institutions of government is questioning, is the idea that there's a counterbalance available.
Right. And that's what's so frightening. I mean, it may be the way Donald Trump runs his businesses, but it's not the way he's going to run the country. In fact, we're not going to sit back. The Congress is going to play a role, and Democrats are going to be very vocal about this. And it really worries me when a top aide says something like that, because it shows they don't understand American democracy or don't care, or both.
And do you feel that Congress being vocal is going to be effective?
Well, I know that the Democrats, we just can't have a retreat, and everybody is very, very angry at what we see. I want to tell you, my constituents in my district are so energized over this ban of immigration ban, and are so angry about what's going on. I haven't seen people so energized since I was a young kid during the Vietnam War. And I think that the American public is not going to be silenced on this. We are a nation of immigrants. We don't keep people out because of their religion or their race or anything like that. And if we're doing that, shame on us. We shouldn't be doing it, and people are angry about it.
Congressman, good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Congressman Elliot Engel. That brings us to today.